Don Chisciotte. L'esuberante Don Chisciotte, liberamente ispirato al romanzo Don Chisciotte de la Mancha di Miguel de Cervantes, fu la primissima collaborazione tra Marius Petipa e Ludwig Minkus. Nonostante la sua complessa evoluzione, il capolavoro di danza classica di Petipa, che si conclude con il festeggiamento del matrimonio dei protagonisti con uno spettacolare pas de deux, è rimasto ampiamente immutato e mette in luce la sua abilità di coreografo e il fascino duraturo della sua opera. Nel 1867, quando il balletto fu presentato a Mosca, vi erano incluse delle scene recitate e danzate per attirare il pubblico moscovita. 2 anni dopo, Marius Petipa rielaborò il Don Chisciotte per i teatri imperiali e assegnò alla stessa ballerina le 2 parti femminili, ovvero Chitri e Dulcinea. L'originale ideato da Petipa conteneva molti pezzi di bravura, che ancora oggi sono i passaggi fra i più noti nel mondo della danza. Pensiamo ai salti di Chitri nel primo atto, oppure a tutte le prese sopra la testa del ballerino nei passi a 2, ma anche i salti e la variazione del ventaglio che si chiude di scatto nel grande passo 2 dell'atto terzo. Spesso questo viene eseguito nelle serate di gala. Nonostante l'accoglienza positiva, nel 1902 il balletto imperiale di San Pietroburgo chiese ad Aleksandr Gorsky di riallestire il balletto. Questi lo rielaborò e ampliò creando un balletto più esteso, un'opera in 3 atti. Creò anche la scena del sogno delle Driadi che viene attualmente eseguita. Nella versione di Petipa, Don Chisciotte combatteva contro diversi mostri, fra cui un ragno gigante, e successivamente si svelava il giardino di Dulcinea. Gorsky modificò la simmetria di molte scene di gruppo e anche del corpo di ballo, permettendo ai singoli danzatori di mettere in evidenza la propria personalità. Anna Pavlova, ancora una volta, con la sua compagnia portò in tutta Europa il Don Chisciotte, in una versione un po' ridotta che andò in scena per la prima volta a Londra nel 1924. Nel 66, quando Rudolf Nureyev ne allestì una versione per il balletto di Stato dell'Opera di Vienna, ebbe un enorme successo. Nureyev, che aveva fatto parte del balletto Kirov di Mosca, creò una coreografia basandosi sulla versione di Petipa e Gorsky, trasformando il ruolo di Basilio in una performance virtuosistica. Nel 1970 lo riprese per l'Australian Ballet con Lucette Aldous nel ruolo di Chitri. Pensate che nel 1972 ne diresse anche una versione cinematografica che aveva come protagonista il danzatore, coreografo e attore australiano Robert Helpman. Il film, uscito nelle sale nel 1973, fu girato in un hangar per aerei di Melbourne. Fu un grande successo in tutto il mondo. Nel frattempo, nel 1965, George Balanchine realizzò una propria versione coreografica per il New York City Ballet. Era molto diversa dalla versione di Petipa Gorsky e si avvaleva anche di musiche nuove, che erano state scritte e composte da Nicholas Nabokov. Nel ruolo di Dulcinea danzò la musa di George Balanchine, ovvero Susan Farrell, ed egli stesso comparve in diverse serate proprio come Don Chisciotte. Il balletto si incentrava sulla ricerca di Dulcinea, la donna ideale, da parte di Don Chisciotte, e rifletteva la ricerca personale di Balanchine della propria perfetta ispiratrice. Andò in scena solo alla fine degli anni 70 del 1900, ma nel 2005 fu rielaborato dalla Farrell per la sua compagnia, chiamata The Susan Farrell Ballet. Nel 1978 Baryshnikov ne allestì una propria versione per l'American Ballet Theatre. Anch'egli, come Nureyev, adeguò il ruolo di Basilio al proprio talento. Nel Regno Unito, nel 1950, Ninette de Valois mise in scena la propria versione del Don Chisciotte per la compagnia del Royal Ballet. Più di recente, nel 2013, Carlos Acosta ha inserito la passionalità spagnola nella sua interpretazione.
Don Quixote is funny, is over the top, is the epitome of athleticism.
There is love and happiness and pure joy from this ballet.
It's just such a wonderfully uplifting story, full of great tunes.
There's no deep hidden meaning. It's just fun, isn't it? On every level.
Every level, it's non-stop fun.
Don Quixote is the hero in search of new adventures.
He's reading this novel about exploring and saving the world. In front of him is this beautiful vision of Dulcinea. She knights him and says, yes, go on this quest. My friend comes in, Sancho Panza, who's been up to no good.
Sancho Panza's quite a fun-loving character, bit of a buffoon, and really all he wants to do is eat and drink and don't say a word. That's not my normal life. Chris?
He always makes sure I go in the right direction.
I do.
They arrive into this square where there is these two lovers, Kitri and Basilio.
Basilio, he's a barber, and he's desperately trying to win Kitri's hand in marriage.
Kitri, she's really cheeky and she's quite confident girl. But her father, Lorenzo, he wants her to get married to the richest guy in the town, who is Gamache.
Don Q can see immediately that Kitri is not going to want to marry Gamache, and while on his quest, he's gonna do as much good as he can along the way. And one of those things is making sure that Kitri and Basilio marry.
This is no longer my ballet, it's everybody's ballet, and it's in the repertoire. What everybody came to see is the technical display of the main characters, Kitri and Basilio.
Good.
Stylistically, Kitri and Basilio are quite earthy, even though the steps that we're doing are rooted in classical tradition.
I found it's quite challenging role. I have to do soft and elegant and quite strong, passionate girl in the same ballet.
That's right.
I think one of the great things about working with Akane is that she pushes me to work harder every day. As the two leads, you really set the tone and you can drive the performance and the excitement levels to allow a lot of colour and a lot of life.
I perform Don Q, and I'm staging the ballet. Pretty much most of the time I'm coaching or teaching the rehearsals.
Just mark it, Phil. I don't want you to pull anything. That's it. Calm down.
The first thing I have to try and get into the company is the amount of energy they have to put in.
5, 6, 7, 8, across, soutenu.
Wherever you are, no matter whether you're selling apples or you're doing the Seguidilla dance or you're Kitri and Basilio, because the energy is the same.
energy is the same. Because what was great when we originally did it, Carlos did every single role with us. I mean, he did every single my role, he did Chris's. Yeah. He kind of did it how he wanted it to be. And so, and now that's up to Chris, really, to kind of pass that on.
I mean, I love to perform and still do my day job and pass on all the knowledge I have to the dancers.
This version of Don Q has music by Ludwig Minkus. We are taking all of that music and putting it to Carlos's vision.
I sort of wanted to bring live music elements to the stage, other than the orchestra, and so I wanted to bring these guitar players, kind of like flamenco, to incorporate a Spanish flavor of it. Martin composed something that then the guitar players are playing. It has the Minkus flavor, but actually, it's sort of his own composition.
We needed some music for the gypsy scene, and that's the bit, of course, for the flamenco guitars, which is somewhat unusual, but it has an amazing place at the center of this ballet. In the past, you would have had actors or ballet dancers walking around with an empty guitar with no strings, pretending to strum, and we've done away with that, and having the music live up on the stage is obviously part of the way to make this very naturalistic and realistic.
It's just one of the best ballets to see. It's some of the hardest, most challenging technical feats of classical dancing.
It is one of those really fun ballets to come and watch.
People are going to come out, hopefully singing, clapping. It's a feel-good ballet.
It's a fantastic piece of music and theatre. It's going to be an extraordinary event.
Ma qual è la trama di questo balletto? Don Chisciotte parte con il suo scudiero Sancho Panza per cercare Dulcinea, la donna dei suoi sogni. Chitri, figlia dell'albergatore Lorenzo, che è innamorata del barbiere Basilio, apprende che il padre ha acconsentito a darla in sposa al nobile Gamache. Dopo aver visto Chitri, Don Chisciotte pensa di aver trovato Dulcinea. Chitri e Basilio fuggono di nascosto in un campo di zingari, dove Don Chisciotte, credendo di proteggere Dulcinea, attacca un mulino a vento. Immagina delirante che sia un giardino di driadi. Nel frattempo, Lorenzo costringe Chitri ad accettare la corte di Gamache.
Act 2 begins with Kitri and Basilio arriving somewhere out in the woods, the forest. They don't realise it, they've stumbled onto the gypsy camp. The gypsies think they've come to steal their stuff. They explain that they're just in love and they want to run away and get married, and they're like, okay, fine, join us.
This version of Don Q, as we call it, has music by Ludwig Minkus, who was an Austrian composer. I have written an extra piece of music, although I have based it on Minkus's melodies.
In the second act, I sort of wanted to bring live elements to the stage, music elements, other than the orchestra.
In the past, you would have had actors or ballet dancers walking around with an empty guitar with no strings, pretending to strum, yeah. And we've done away with that. And, having the music live up on the stage is obviously, again, part of the way to going to make this very naturalistic and realistic.
I wanted to break with the stereotypes of the gypsy with the whip and, all this kind of thing. I wanted to break a little bit with that and then add a little more contemporary movements.
He wanted the gypsies to be very earthy, and in fact, male and female gypsies are very strong.
Basilio e Chitri escogitano un trucco per ottenere dal padre il consenso per le loro nozze.
By Act 3, all the characters and all the dancers end up in the tavern for a beer and a little bit of dancing and a little bit more raucous sort of feel to it.
I think I like the tavern because I try to lift the role of Espada and Mercedes almost to the point of the principal roles, Basilio and Chitri. And also when Basilio and Chitri arrive into the tavern and they do this dance on the table, and then Chitri is doing this dance on the bar, and then Mercedes joins her, I think that moment is really, really great. And again, it breaks with the whole classicism feel.
I wanted the tavern to be underground and dark and mysterious, and not lit by natural daylight, but lit with candlelight and much darker.
I hope we'll manage to make it, plenty bright enough to see what's going on and see what we want you to see, but feel really atmospheric. It's got shadowy corners and people are doing all sorts of things in the corners we probably don't even want to think about, but it's a really interesting scene.
This Don Quixote is a fresh way of trying to tell the story that the ballet world knows very, very well, but it's trying to give it a sort of contemporary feel. Carlos was really, really keen to free it up visually. It's still classical and it's still, traditional in many ways, but we chose to inject it with color and also look at pantomime and find the fun in the dance.
Okay, from the top.
I'm a great believer that when you're designing on stage, that you find your own theatrical language. I start with sketches. Then I would build a 1:25 model, which this all is, and it is in insane detail for the carts, putting it next to a figure so you can see how big everything is. So there's a real understanding, as best we can, when we get onto the stage. It first of all starts with the prologue in Don Quixote's bedroom. And I wanted that first set to be small and contained, like the beginning of a book. And you're not quite sure what direction it's going to go in. And then I wanted to try and get a sense that the pages of the book are opening up. So we have the set with giant doors like a book opening into the world and into the town square. We then go to the gypsy encampment, and that's another whole different look. It's a different feel, it's a different smell, it's different light. Then we go into the tavern in Act 3, which again is very, very different. I wanted that to be underground and dark and mysterious, lit with candlelight and much darker. So I was trying all the time to contrast the scene, so it's not just one look all the way through. The dancers have been fantastic, and they are so up for things that we're throwing at them. They're moving furniture, dancing on tables, and Carlos always wanted that. He wanted the dancers to be very physical and involved with the props and the furniture and the set. The challenge with big props that move, that dancers have to interact with, is simply that, is getting the interaction right. So we had to find a language of our own. For example, the horse. We definitely didn't want to have a real horse. So this is a sort of sad horse made of straw and metal and mechanical and quite obviously hand-pulled along. And also, it's a sort of little nod to a pantomime horse.
Number 3 in.
Designing for dance is its own sort of design. I trained as a theatre designer and I've worked extensively in the theatre, but I've never done a full-scale ballet before. And I've been guided by the best people in the ballet world, so it's just been a joy, really.